Good morning or good afternoon. It's 11 o'clock here on the West Coast, but thank you all for joining us today. My name is Steve Jones, and I'm a brokerage director here at BGA Insurance. We're a full service general agency specializing in life insurance, annuities, long-term care, and disability insurance. I know you're expecting to see Trent Zimmerman on the call today, but he is out of the office. So I'll be pinch hitting for him today and introducing our guest. And with that being said, this is your 20-minute Annuity Tuesday. Very pleased to have joining us today Amira Jabrin. She's our Regional Vice President with Mass Mutual. And once again, Amira, thank you for joining us today. Look forward to hearing your presentation. And with that being said, the floor is yours.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for having me, Steve, and thanks for pinch hitting today. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for hopping on, and welcome to Annuity Tuesdays. This is my first time here, so appreciate the invitation. And my goal today is to leave you with some ideas to bring back to your practice, specifically focused on fee-based annuities. If you didn't know, MassMutual Ascend was the innovator of fee-based annuities more than a decade ago. So we have a long track record, and we remain the number one fee-based annuity sales organization in the industry for I believe it's now the sixth consecutive quarter was the last LIMRA report that I saw. So really popular solution at our firm, and for good reason. We have a number of different fee-based annuity solutions that you can consider amongst your practice that are very competitive from not just a rate standpoint, but really more focused on how you use annuities within your practice. So that'll be the focus for my comments today. I know we only have a short time here, so in the event you have any follow-up questions or after the call today that something comes up, I am a resource available to you with the extension of my broader team. So I'll be sure to share my contact information. However we can help you, we'd be more than happy to. The way MassMutual Ascend Annuities distribution is set up is we have a team of relationship managers who partner with the IMO marketers such as BGA, and they kind of cover the entire country. And then we have two of us dedicated direct to advisor supplemental wholesalers in addition to that. So I'm based in California, and I have a counterpart in Florida, just the two states that basically sell the most annuities. And then the other states are supported by our broader team, not with specific coverage. And we really do lean on the third parties mostly for most of our distribution. And so anything that you are using with MassMutual Ascend, it does have to be in partnership with one of the third parties, such as BGA. So really helpful to do these kind of partnership calls to share ideas together because it really is a team effort. So with that context, I'm sharing my screen here with just a quick overview of MassMutual Ascend. We formerly were known as Great American Insurance based in Cincinnati, Ohio. So if you have any legacy Great American policies on your books, they probably say MassMutual Ascend now. We were acquired by MassMutual a few years ago, and it took them a couple years, but then they rebranded Great American to be MassMutual Ascend so that they had some consistency in the brand names. But we are still a separate distribution from MassMutual. So MassMutual has their own annuities and their own other retirement solutions, and that's handled by a completely different organization, different distribution team. And then I support and my team are with MassMutual Ascend. We have our own unique products and distribution, so that's where we'll be focused today. MassMutual Ascend has an A++ credit rating, which is the highest in the industry, or tied for highest in the industry. And then our parent company, MassMutual, shares that very strong credit rating. So I think when it comes to planning for clients' retirement, the idea of a credit rating and having the certainty and stability of the firm becomes very important. And so we're really proud to share that that is something that is only going to be additive to our story and not take away. And you can be, confident to put our name in front of your clients and prospects. So that's a little bit on Mass Mutual Ascend. What I'm going to pivot to now is on a concept within fee-based annuities focused on the fixed index annuity. So this is going to be something that has full downside protection, right? Your principal is protected with a fixed index annuity. But then this is unique within a fee-based structure, given how you would take your advisory fee, and also how the growth potential for the client is achieved. So those are really the three key areas that I think about when I think about Index Protector 5 MVA. It's to help clients deliver growth potential, principal protection, and flexibility, all within a fee-based structure. So oftentimes we'll meet advisors who have a very strong managed money practice and fee-based practice, and they don't use annuities. They've been turning on to this concept because it's a way to protect your clients' downside in a year where there's been quite a bit of uncertainty going on in the news, in the markets, in the world. There always is. And no one knows when you finally make that important decision to retire how the world is going to look. And so what you don't want to worry about is, okay, well, I've, amassed this large savings bucket. Now it's time to start living off of that bucket. Well, what if the market takes a dip? Fixed index annuities can solve for exactly that concern given their principal protection. But none of us want to give up the upside potential, right? Inflation is still a concern for many of us. So at minimum, we want to make sure that our money is not going to get cheaper on us as years go on. So we're going to offer you opportunities to participate in market-like returns that I'll review. And then, so that's kind of one reason why the fee-based structure. The other reason that many fee-based practice advisors have been turning on to this is it's a way to also put a floor on their advisory fee. I'll never forget in 2008, my dad's a financial advisor, and I was in high school at the time, but the financial crisis happened, and not only were his clients really stressed, he was really stressed, but literally his paycheck was cut in half. So suddenly we were watching, how often we were going out to dinner, and we were watching our spending more than we ever did. So as an advisor, you can principal protect your advisory fee, right? If you're taking a fee on the assets, it is in your best interest to make sure that asset value doesn't decline. So what better way than to utilize a fixed index annuity to build some principal protection in for a portion of someone's assets, and it also protects you, allowing you more flexibility to go into managed money or other opportunities within your practice and portfolio for the client. So those are kind of the two reasons why to consider the fee-based structure. Now I'll focus on the Index Protector 5, which is the Mass Mutual Ascend 5-year fee-based fixed index annuity. What is going to be unique about this one is the fact that we don't have a surrender charge. So in other words, no CDSC. But we do have an MVA. MVA stands for market value adjustment. And oftentimes that can be an issue for advisors. They don't like the idea of there being an MVA. But what we have been discussing with advisors these days is how MVAs work is they have an inverse relationship with interest rates. So if you're of the opinion that interest rates are going to go down from here, as most people tend to be thinking, the MVA is going to go up in that scenario. Vice versa, if you think rates are going to go up from here, the MVA is going to go down, resulting in potentially a negative impact on your client's outcome. I should say the MVA only comes into play if you take a withdrawal within the 5 years. So while there's no CDSC, there is still that 5-year time frame to consider, or term. So for any withdrawal within the 5 years, that's beyond the 10% free withdrawal allowance that we permit. That's what would be assessed the MVA. So I look at cases multiple times a day where someone has written in, I'm just going to call it IP5, Index Protector 5 MVA, IP5 for short, since it's a mouthful. They wrote an IP5 policy a year ago and client situation changed. They had a liquidity event and they need a portion or all of their assets. In some of the cases that I looked at, the MBA was actually positive. So they were encouraged. They actually got more. So they got the interest that they earned over that year, plus an appreciation from the MBA, which was obviously not their goal, but a nice outcome for them, given that's just what happened from their start dates. It's going to depend on exactly the day. And we do have an MBA calculator on our website, so you can always get a sense of what the MBA might look like. So I wouldn't let that detail alone keep you from considering this, because the product itself has so many other great features that the MVA is really such a minor point, because it only comes into play if you take a withdrawal within the 5 years beyond the 10% free withdrawal allowance, and interest rates go up so much that the MVA declines so much. Like, a lot of things have to be happening for that to be a detrimental outcome. Not saying it can't happen, but if you're already thinking about someone with an investment time frame that is a few years long, they really shouldn't likely have to deal with the MBA, because hopefully they're just letting the money sit, and in 5 years they're just going to be happy when they look at the outcome of their policy. So that's the MBA explained. And then what I'm sharing on the screen is the current rate sheet. So you'll see we have a variety of different indexes that you can participate in over the 5 years. Most of these are going to be 1 year point-to-point strategies, which means if you open a policy today, let's say in this S&P 500 1 year point-to-point with a cap, we're going to cap the growth over the next year at 12%, assuming the S&P does 12% or more. You'll get 12. If the S&P does less than 12, you'll get up to whatever the S&P does over that year. And then it'll reset. So in year 2, you'll say, I want to stay in the S&P with the cap, or I want to move into something else. Maybe I want to go into the EFA, or I want to use a few different indexes. So next question we always get is, well, how are your renewals? If these are mostly 1 year strategies, 12% today looks awesome. I don't know where else I can find that, given, somewhat of a liquid product and all these other great features. Well, our renewals, not that we can promise them going forward, but our renewals on this particular product since inception have been completely consistent, meaning wherever we're issuing today is where we've renewed. A lot can change. So again, not to say that they're guaranteed, but you can see our track record through various interest rate environments has been very strong with this. So I'd feel confident in what that looks like going forward. And I will say we tend to be on the more conservative side. Like, as soon as we see markets shifting, you'll see our rates shift because we want to be better on the renewal side. We don't want to give you a teaser rate up front and then really cap the renewals down the road. Another popular idea is using this IP5 as an alternative to either a CD or a fixed annuity. How advisors have been doing that is utilizing the 5-year declared rate, which right now for purchases 250,000 and more is 5.15% per year. And that is guaranteed for the 5 years term, because this is the 5-year declared rate. So you might be thinking, well, what's this 1 year declared rate right above it, and why are they the same rate? Reason we have the 1 year declared rate is, let's say you start with the S&P this year, and next year you're like, I don't want anything having to do with the market, so I'm just going to go into the 1 year declared rate. I'm going to be happy with my 515. So that's one reason. Another reason is we want you to have a way to take your advisory fee from the annuity if you would like to. So in order to do that without having to pull principal from the client's assets, we'd love to just take it from the interest off the top. So how we do that is, when you allocate a portion of the overall assets to this 1 year declared rate, it's going to earn the 5.15% interest annually. Again, that rate technically can change, but we have been consistent. So generally what we'll see is, let's say an advisor wants to charge 1% on the overall assets. This interest from the 1 year declared rate will pay them that fee. That way the principal stays protected, assuming they allocated 20% or so of the overall allocation to this 1 year declared rate. You'd have to kind of do the math on a case by case, but that's generally what we see has worked based on the current interest rates. One other index strategy I will highlight is this S&P 500 risk control 1 year point to point. This one has a participation rate, not a cap rate. So for those of you who don't love cap rates, we do have some of these strategies with participation rates, which means your upside is a bit more, not completely unlimited, right? It's you get 95% of whatever this index does. But you also notice this says risk control. So a lot of advisors are like, I don't like those volatility controlled indexes. And I hear you. I used to work for BlackRock and I supported the team who created a lot of those volatility controlled indexes, and they were definitely challenged for the past several years. So, what we like about this one is the volatility target is 10%. Many of the volatility control indices are 5, 6, 7%, which means it's really challenging to allow that index to actually allocate itself to risk assets and earn anything. So this being at 10%, it's had very strong correlation with the S&P for better or for worse. So the past several years, this index has done double-digit returns consistently, which is pretty unheard of for a volatility control index. I think you're usually expecting low to mid single digits, definitely not double digits. So this one's pretty impressive. Maybe not to put everything in there, but if you want to just say, hey, maybe the market has a good year, I don't want to cap myself at 12. I'd love to get 95% of if it does 20 or 30 or whatever that is. So that's one other idea I would look at if you're going to consider this. And then you'll see there's another column here for any purchases under 250,000. We just have slightly lower cap and par rates for you. But overall, we tend to be very competitive on these rates across fixed index annuities in general, but definitely across the fee-based fixed index annuities as well. Another question I get is, how can we have this high of a cap on the S&P on this product, but by comparison, our 7-year commissionable fixed index annuity has a much lower cap on basically the same index, the S&P 1 year point to point with cap. Reason for that is due to this being a fee-based structure and we have the MVA, we don't have we're not paying a large upfront commission to the advisor. There's a lot more we can do on the hedging side, and we can afford, a higher cap rate over here because we're not having to pay out that lump sum. So if you're in a position where you have the choice of commissionable versus advisory, most advisors have opened their eyes to the advisory, if for no other reason than the fact that our rates are much more competitive in most cases, at least recently. So that's the Index Protector 5 in a nutshell. Other things that I didn't touch on, like who can who's this appropriate for and all of that, that's going to be pretty similar to your typical 5-year fixed index annuity. We issue this one up to age 89 in most cases. For any inherited cases, the issue age limit is lower. We are known for non-spouse stretch and other inherited ideas. So if you didn't know that about us, keep us in mind when you come across those cases. So lots of resources on the website. I'll be sure to share this so that you can access it afterwards, but I'll stop there because I know we're coming up on time, and hand it back to you, Steve. Thanks again for the opportunity, and I look forward to discussing any opportunities that come up from this. I think you're still on mute.
There we go. Great
Great.
job today, and we thank you for your partnership. Do we have any questions? If so, you can reach out to Trent or myself, and we can get those over to you, Amira. But I want to thank all you for joining us today. Hopefully, you found this presentation to be beneficial. And rest assured, Trent will be back in the office next week for the Tuesday annuity webinar. Also, be on the lookout for an email from us. I'm actually conducting a life insurance sales idea based webinars on a regular basis. So please be on the lookout for that. And hopefully you can join us. Have a great rest of your day. We appreciate your business and hope to talk to you soon. Thanks again.